Welcome back to the Life Legacy Podcast. As always, we bring on well-rounded, inspiring leaders. And today, I'm really excited to introduce my guest here and honored that you're here. This is someone that in, our short interactions that we've had, you like light up a room. You come with this positive, fun energy, and you glow. And this is also someone that when they walk in the room, when they walk in their room because
I'm loud.
loud guy that's fun, but also, you've had a fun career being a professional athlete, playing in the NFL. You did great things at BYU, playing basketball and football, and we can talk more into it, but I get to bring on Bronson Kaufusi to the podcast.
Man, it's good to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Bronson, to help our audience kind of get to know you, what really fires you up?
You know what? What really fires me up is seeing people win. That fires me up. That's something that is at the core of everything that I do. And so I love it. I love it when people win.
And where do you think that came from?
I don't know. I think it's based in sports, growing up playing. In a family, there's 5 kids in my family, and growing up, we're super competitive, but you also learn through playing, sports all the time, every year since we were little, how to be a good teammate. And one of those things is being excited when someone wins, or someone does something good, or scores a goal, or makes a shot, or scores a touchdown, whatever it is. Yeah. Which is hard to do sometimes, right? When you're a little kid and you start getting competitive with each other, it's like, why didn't I score? But you learn that you play better if you can cheer on your teammates and be excited when they win.
Yeah, definitely. I think the power of having people in your corner that you can share wins with, or at least get that excitement together, because there's some people where it's like might not feel appropriate to share a win where they don't, or you always want to be that person that someone can feel comfortable sharing a win with, and share that excitement.
Yeah,
I love that, man.
So true.
Well, let's talk about, I'm curious what your thoughts on this is, the phrase like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. What does that mean to you?
Oh man, I love that phrase. I love that because for me, that's where, most of my motivation comes from. There's a quote like that, because, I wake up every day with that at the core of my thoughts and my spirit, all of it. Just because really, if you look at it, and I don't know if anyone's ever done this before, but if you go and go on to a family history app like Ancestry or Family Tree, and you just start going back, for generations, you see so many people, and now it comes all the way down to you, and it's like, oh my gosh, all these people lived lives and had experiences. And what's interesting is the experiences starting even right above you with your parents and then their parents, they've all had to do different things to be successful that you may never have to experience. The pain and sacrifice, the struggle, all of that you never had to experience. And so when I think of that quote, I think about, so many people prior to me making, doing really hard things just so I could be here today. And that's why every day is such a gift and an opportunity. So I wake up excited for the day because I know that, man, so many of my ancestors and people before me, they were praying for this opportunity, and I'm living it. Yeah. I am living. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. If you are on the earth and you're breathing, you wake up in the morning, you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
And that opportunity is to be great. And that's what our forefathers and people that came before us, expect of us. And so always remembering that makes you show up differently in every situation.
The level of sacrifice that these people went through for us to, I mean, if you're located in Utah, like your worst case scenarios right now are so minuscule compared to anywhere else in the world. Like your rock bottoms, and people have hard rock bottoms. There's truth in that, but it's like no one here should be going hungry. No one here is lacking water or the basics of life, and it's because of who built that and those sacrifices that we got. I kind of want to start a little bit with your family. Yeah, I from an outside looking in, your family seems so interesting. No family's perfect ever, but just the ceiling of dreams and achievements that have gone through the Kaufusi family it's wild. It's really cool and impressive. So tell me about, your dad's journey, just getting started.
Oh man, his it's incredible actually. So he was born back in Tonga, and and for those of you who don't know, Tonga is a little island in the middle of the Pacific, and he's the oldest of 9 kids, and he grew up in a hut essentially as big as this right here, and so he moved. So his family, his parents, um, they went on a church mission there, and took 6 kids with them, and traveled the islands, other islands as missionaries, and
with their 6
kids, and then and then they ended up saving up enough money to come to America, and so they ended up in Salt Lake City, and they always felt like they needed to do that, but it was my grandpa, my great grandpa, that really they paid a major sacrifice, because they went to other islands to go work and make money and for years, and then come back. And
what would they do? Do you know?
They do like construction work, or whatever work they could find.
Yeah.
And then they'd send the money back. So eventually they all came back. They all came over here to Salt Lake City. And so my dad, he had such a unique, the stories that he tells are so interesting, because it's stuff that I would never think about. Like, he talks about when he was back in the island, and what an experience it was to, for the first time, take a bite out of an apple, because they don't have those there. And isn't that crazy? Crazy. And he talked about how incredible it was, and I was like, I never will have that experience, and my our kids will never have that experience. And so, but that's based, and those stories are good to tell, because it helps you, it keeps you grounded, keeps you grateful, which is important. So he then came to Salt Lake City, and for him, he has a bunch of brothers and a couple sisters, and they were playing rugby at the park, and high school football coach comes walking by. Hey, you guys should play football. And my dad's like, what's that? And so in high school, he went to South High, the Cubs there up in Salt Lake. That's no longer there, but he ended up playing football and getting a scholarship. And once he understood what a scholarship was, he called home and said, put all the boys in football. And so then, all the kids started playing football. And he then went to Dixie, played there, went on a mission, came back, played at Dixie again, and then he went to BYU. And then from there, he was drafted to the Eagles. So from the island to the Eagles, after he was done playing, I was born out there when he was playing. For the football fans, he was Reggie White's backup back in the day over there in Philadelphia. And then he started coaching at Utah. So, and he was the first Tongan D1 football coach.
No way.
Yeah. Good. So it's pretty crazy.
Making history.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm curious for you. You grew up around the Eagles. Is that your team? Was that your team growing up, or
I follow them. I follow them, but like
who was your team growing up?
growing up,
Yeah,
my team was the Broncos,
yeah.
just because we were so close to them.
Mm.
And yeah, I had a I had an Ed McCaffrey jersey, and I had my dad got me like a Broncos sweatshirt, and I just wore that thing everywhere. And then we moved from Salt Lake when he was done coaching at Utah. I got hired at BYU, and so then when we moved to Provo, the high school I went to was Timpview, which was
Yeah.
orange and blue as well. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. So yeah, I remember I like painted my room orange and blue, and yeah, it was fun.
The colors stayed.
Yeah.
I was always a Peyton Manning fan, and so
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved the Colts growing up. And then when he came to the Broncos, like, all right, okay, I gotta
Follow
throw some
Broncos.
respect. to
Let's
some
go.
Broncos.
Yeah. Hey, they were good.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Let's go to like some of your earlier memories, like with your dad as he's
Yeah.
in the NFL. Do you remember like going to any of his games or what that was like?
I was so little.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of it. But what I do remember is mainly when he was coaching. And some of these players he was coaching are NFL players now, or they were, right? It was guys like, when he was at Utah, right? Like John Frank and Luther Ellis and, and like the Kim Atus and all these guys that played in the NFL that he went and coached. And, some of them, a lot of them, he recruited them right out of high school to Utah. And, but I remember, I was that kid that would go to the football facility and just be the coach's son that was everywhere. Like I was in the locker room, I was at practice, I was in the meeting rooms, I was just everywhere with them.
Yeah.
And I loved it. So I grew up in that environment, running around with those guys and having fun. And yeah, it was awesome.
How do you feel like that impacted you in your career through athletics?
Yeah, I think when you're a coach's son, you see the dedication, sacrifice that coaches make for their players, and through whether it's time in preparation for a game and an opponent, or it's time outside of the game where he's doing things, going really out of his way to go help a player move, or help a player, his family's in town, or having people over for dinner, and so for me, what it taught me was one of the most valuable things was the importance of relationships and integrity. And so watching what how he recruited and built relationships, right? That's really what recruiting is how good are your relationships, and building those and making them strong. And so I loved that because it helps me, today in business and everything. But also when I was playing, it helped me understand, okay, like when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And when someone needs help, you show up. And, you go all in and you listen to people, and you're never too big for anybody. Right.
Yeah.
And so all of that, it all comes from his example, and seeing him, do that day in and day out for years, almost 30 years.
I feel like with relationships, I was an outdoor therapist counselor this random summer that I felt like called to do for some reason. And it taught me so much on like talking about relationships, of just how to build genuine relationships. I feel like it comes down to like pure love, vulnerability, and just like acceptance of people. And as well, that supporting factor of like showing up for people. So I love that. Like that's a core thing for me of like, you can excel so far in life and business, and make the hundreds of millions, make the billions. But if you don't have relationships in your corner, it's an empty success. And I feel like we're in a culture of significance and like wanting all the stature, but the people that are cutting people along the way to get to those levels, that's where I feel like they come to a point where they're like, oh, like I need to go back to the fundamentals type of thing. And so I'm curious on your side uh, to build these amazing relationships, because it's also been cool to hear, like, your dad talking about coaching. In a way, you coach, athletes right now too.
Mhm.
I'm curious how you like to build relationships.
You know what? My favorite way to build relationships are, uh, like what I said is step number one, show up for people. And why? Why is that so important? Because that's how you build trust,
Mm,
and it's a way to build, and it's not to build it; it's to earn it. And
mm,
so I think the best relationships are built when people are showing up for people and earning that trust prior, before, asking for things, or doing things like that. So um I love that aspect, and being a value creator for individuals.
mm,
It's hard to be a value creator if you're not a good listener. And so when you meet people, being able to listen to their words, but also listen to their heart.
mm.
And I think that's something that I learned from my dad early on, is everyone, not all the time do words match the heart. And so when you're listening to people, asking questions that give them the opportunity and the space to share what's really on their mind and in their heart, right? So I think that's important, because then it allows people to open up, and like you said, vulnerability, it's a big part of it. And so those are some different things that I like to do in building relationships, whether it's with athletes, and athletes are some of the hardest ones to build relationships with, because
Mm.
they're so guarded,
Interesting.
because they've been told their whole lives everyone's trying to, take your money, take your time, take everything from you. And so, athletes have gatekeepers all around them, right? And so it's like, okay, how do you build relationships with athletes when they're the most guarded,
Yeah.
even, more guarded than, you know, multi-billionaires, because they're so, just because.
Their information's like to the public.
Then that's why
Mm,
everyone can see everything, how much money, what's going on, injuries, and it's just a unique it's such a unique situation. You don't find that in business anywhere.
huh.
And so, yeah, but I enjoy it. And
Yeah.
it does help for sure that I have that background and being in the locker room with them,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, he's lived it. He knows what it's like, and how to go through it, and or how to navigate these issues. And so I don't know, all those things though, but matter. But number one is you gotta earn trust by showing up.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. With with some of the work ethic that you guys have across the family, your mom being a mayor, your dad well, she was in athletics as well, right? Or
Yeah,
she was a cheerleader?
yeah, she was a Cougarette at BYU,
Yeah.
and then my whole life growing up, she's a marathon runner. So I used to ride my bike behind her all around Salt Lake and Provo. And then, like, in high school, she'd
Mm.
call me up, like, hey, let's go for a run. And next minute we're like 16 miles in. I'm like, what's going on? Good thing I was in high school. I don't know if I can do it now, but yeah. So I grew up watching my dad achieve,
Yeah.
and and put the work in, and win, right? And I watched my mom,
Mm.
same thing, put time in, make sacrifices, and just be consistent. And one of my biggest principles I'm a big fan of is, proximity is power. And when you are watching the two, the top mentors in your life, who you hear their voice more than anybody else, um, it's it's hard not to want to be like that. And so that's why, even me, like, we have 3 kids now, and, like, I think about whose voice do I want my kids to hear
Mm.
outside of my own and my wife's. Who else? Because there are many lessons that have to come from other people.
Mm.
It can't come from the parents,
Yeah.
because the kids won't always listen to that lesson coming from mom and dad's voice.
Yeah.
And so, and my dad knew this, and I watched my dad do it with other. He'd have me go meet with different people and be around different people, and because he knew he could share that with me 100 times, but then this guy shares it with me one time, and just because they're not my dad and there's someone else, I'll actually listen and be like, "That's awesome, I'll go do it." Yeah.
I love that. It is pretty interesting. I feel like a lot of families and just society as a general puts a ton of dependency on external factors like school systems to teach their kids some of the most important things. Like, a lot of the kids never learn about the birds and the bees from their own family,
Yeah.
from friends or,
Yeah,
whatever.
internet.
But I have a notes app. I had a friend that his parents, they do these family discussions and they talk about like the most important principles. And it's not like you need to do these things, but like, hey, this is how you respect someone with a different belief. This is how, you respect like a relationship between a guy and a girl or
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm really excited about that part of life to be able to teach the individual principles. And for me, and I'm curious on yours too, but my dad wasn't a teacher of words. It was just all action.
Mhm.
And he kind of sucked at the whole coaching aspect.
Yeah.
Other than he was an amazing coach through his actions. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious what that was like for you, if they were, would sit you down, have, the talks, or if it was just all action.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was a little bit of both. Um, and I think about like when we did have those conversations, and a lot of times it was, if my dad was taking us on a scouting trip, and he's the driver driving us to go camp, and it's just us in the car, right? When we're out in the yard working, and it's just us, or it's after a game and we're driving home and it's just us. I think parents, I think that's one of the greatest blessings of being a parent is having that sacred time, just you and your child, and to be able to have that conversation, which makes sense when you think about what prayer is.
Mm.
And as a parent, that time with your child, that one-on-one time is so valuable.
Mm.
And you have to remember too, it's also time stamped. So, and we read all these different stats about, at age 13, you've already had 80% of your time with your kids, right?
It's crazy.
It's like, I have a son, we have 3 kids. Our oldest is a little boy, and he's 6. So 80%, that's 40% of his life,
Yeah.
of our time together. So it's like, okay, have I, with that time that I've been given, have I, as his dad, you know, done the things that are going to help him to be successful,
Yeah.
and and that's why being a parent is one of the greatest, coaching jobs ever, is because you get that opportunity, and it is an opportunity, and it's very easy. I feel like the world tries to distract parents. I feel like parents are some of the most attacked people by the world in today's day and age because of that opportunity that's literally on their laps, and that right staring them right in the face. And as parents, we can easily get distracted by work, right? Or, whatever, just being too busy and, doing these things. And so, and I've experienced that, right? I've that ebb and flow, right? And so, fortunately, uh, I take a step back to pause and say, okay, I got to build a process around being away from the family, not being away too much,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you got to go do things, right? And that's
There's
fine.
seasons.
But yeah, and ebbs and flows.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think it's important that parents always remember that, hey, it's the greatest calling in life.
Love that.
Yeah.
For you, what does like an excellent father look like?
Oh man. I I think an excellent father understands um how important it is to uh I'm trying to think of how to say this, to share love first.
Mm.
And really, you earn love as a parent every day. And that's why you never stop parenting. And that's one thing I've realized is um, how valuable it is as a child to have a parent that loves you so much that they are going to be there for you all the time. And I think, I was reading in the Bible about the prodigal son.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things that I think sometimes can get overlooked in that story is just the fact that the dad had a place for his son to come home to.
Hmm.
And what does that mean? Like that lesson is as a parent, you have to live your life in a way that, well, you're an example for sure, but also your kids feel comfortable enough that when they're in a storm, they turn around and see a home.
So cool.
I think that's so important. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I think great parents understand that principle
Yeah.
because it's not just a home. Yes, it's a physical structure that you can see, that there's something, you know, but more importantly, it's a place where they know they can be listened to, that they can feel safe, that it's a place of refuge, right? It's a place where they can go and gain strength from, and that's why the home is sacred. It really is. So, tying that all in, I think that those principles and lessons are so important for parents.
Yeah. I've never had that insight from the prodigal son. I love that. It's
Mhm.
yeah. It's like you set the standard of love and that safety aspect. He was in his rock bottom, and I feel like there's a lot of people in the rock bottom and they don't feel safe to go. It's like, hey, my dad's the last person I can talk to about it. He's gonna chew me apart. And he knew coming back that it was a safe place that he needed to go back to, but I don't think he expected the son to run, or the father to run after him like in full joy seeing his son again. And
Yeah.
it is really powerful.
Hmm.
Let's go to your story a little bit more. I just think your family story is so cool. I could be on that for a while.
Yeah.
But you've created your own legacy that is so powerful and legit. And so let's go to where you're really developing in your athletics. Like,
Mhm.
when did you realize that it's like, okay, I got a chance to make it like all the way to
Yeah.
professional.
That's it's a funny thing because everyone thinks like, oh, your dad's coach, like he coached you up at home and did all this. I'm like, no, he was coaching college players, like his other family as well. But I mean, yeah, he would say things, but for me, I was just like that kid that, and I'm grateful my dad and my mom understood this, which was play everything.
Mm.
So I did everything. Like soccer was my sport growing up. Like I did baseball, I did basketball, and then basketball kind of became my thing. And then I played flag football. I started flag football, I think, in 5th grade. Like, and then I didn't play tackle football till 8th grade.
Really?
Yeah, and I played quarterback, and then made it through high school, and uh, didn't even think about going to NFL. I didn't,
Yeah.
because I didn't know how that even worked. And I never asked my dad about it. I was like, show up for practice, do the practice, and then go home and just go play with the neighborhood kids. I go jump on the bikes and let's go get a Shasta down at the grocery store at Days Market. That was it was just
It's
hanging
amazing.
out, building forts, playing, Smash Bros. But I think when it really hit me was when I was in college,
Hmm.
and uh, my sophomore year, my dad was my coach. He never coached me my whole life, right? In any sport till then. And I had a good freshman year. I joined the basketball team. That was fun. I came back to football and, became like the full-time starter and started out okay. And then I got benched. And
Mm.
when I got benched, my dad, my dad told me that that was gonna happen, and then he's like, "Hey, uh, you know, this isn't the this isn't the end, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, what do I need to do?" And he's like, "You know, you can physically do everything. Mentally, that's the part that I want you to focus on.
Hmm.
And so I want you to go meet with a mindset coach." And I was like, "What's that?" And so I did. I went and met with the mindset coach. But that was
Is that Craig
and that was
Manning?
Craig.
Oh, so
Yeah,
cool.
Craig Manning. In our first meeting, that he got me to vocalize, "I'm going to the NFL." And I had never
Let's
said that
go.
ever in my whole life because it never really became a thing.
Hmm.
But that's when I turned the corner of everything I do matters.
Yeah.
What time I go to sleep at, what I put in my body, uh, how much film I put in. Um, you know, I really, in his mindset training, you really, you really gain a sense of ownership, and you do that through being deliberate in the details. And for me, I'd never done that before, and so once I started doing that, like my dad was right. Like I just
Yeah.
started to really rise and play
Hmm.
really fast. And because for me, I was one of those guys prior that I think a lot. Like I'm an analytics major, statistics, right? So I love numbers and looking at everything. And when you think a lot in sports, you lose, and because it's just
Yeah,
you operate slower.
Hmm.
So I had to learn how to do that, and then I also had to learn, like, when you make mistakes, how to overcome that. 'Cause I'd make one mistake, kind of be down on myself for too long, and then it was tough. And that's the thing, is every athlete is pretty similar,
Hmm.
and some of these core principles and lessons are learned at different various times in their journey. And so going back to it, it's like, oh man, those things I learned, I try to teach my son, and he's in sports now. He's doing stuff I never did, like training. And we couldn't afford the training growing up, right? Like I had to get sponsored to go play on the AAU basketball team, and my friends' parents took care of me, like on that front. But like he gets to do everything. Like a lot of going back to stuff that my dad wasn't at a lot of games growing up.
Yeah.
And till high school, he'd come to maybe some home games, a few of them, because BYU would be playing at home, and he'd come sneak away. And I was considered a recruit, so they wanted him there, right? So, but my son, it's like I get to go to practices, I get to go to games, I get to coach, I get to do these things that I never got to experience, and I'm loving it. Honestly, it's living the dream, like they say.
Dang, that's so cool, man. Um, with like the mindset, that pivotal moments there, what do you feel like were the biggest takeaways that you needed, that you learned from Craig Manning? Because Craig Manning, he's
Yeah, the
one of
legend.
the greatest mindset coaches, especially with athletics. Like he took Milwaukee Bucks to,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's a great person to
Giannis.
learn from.
Yeah, no, he is. And what makes his stuff unique, and kind of how he structured it, is it's not about theory, because theory changes with new science, and it's about application. Like what actually works. What is the athlete actually going to do?
Mm.
Not just think about. And I think that's what separates him and the stuff that he does. And so, going back to it, one of the mindset principles that you get really good at is focusing on what you can do instead of what you can't do, which is a growth mindset
Yeah.
versus a scarcity mindset. And so you, you know,
Worry about what's in your control, and you got to push out what's
yeah,
not.
it changes everything, because you see opportunity when others see struggle and doubt and fear. It really comes down to, you see faith, belief, hope. And that mindset is, I mean, truly, it's more of a higher, godly mindset.
Yeah.
And you get to see, but you see everything like that. So this is what's so interesting, is the sports. I was using it to operate in sports better, right? But I was seeing it affect my whole life.
So cool.
So like in church, with different church callings and responsibilities, being a husband, right? Being a brother, son, and now as a father, right? And being a business partner, all these different things. It's just who I am now, just
Yeah.
from training it, just like anything else. And that's the thing that's crazy is you learn that you can train this stuff. And
Well,
I didn't know that, and I didn't know you could train your subconscious. I didn't know you could. I thought the mindset stuff was like
yeah.
either you got it or you don't, and it's like no, everyone can train this. Everyone, if you take the time, just like you do in the weight room to go lift those weights, and everyone loves doing that stuff. But can you put the time in on the mental side? Because that's even more powerful, I believe. Because you take your mental game with you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You don't take the weight set with you into business, or you don't take the weight set with you into film study or into class, but your mindset comes with you everywhere. And I think it's the fastest way to like improve yourself is by
Yeah.
focusing on your mental game.
Yeah. Well, from what I'm hearing, you're talking about focus and perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've probably heard of the reticular activating system. I've talked about it on the podcast a little because
Oh yeah, break it down.
it's
Yeah.
my favorite part of the brain, and it gets me just excited. And this is going to your training part of it. So the reticular activating system is the part of the brain where in this moment, like we're seeing each other, but your brain is also picking up like a million different things in the background, like these little things on the walls.
Yeah.
But you've trained your brain to focus just on what you're talking about or who you're with, or like the last time you bought a new car, you started seeing that car everywhere because when you bought that car, it was like, okay, this is now important to Jackson's world or to Bronson's
Yeah.
world. And so, talking about focusing on, faith and the positive perspective of any situation versus the negative, if you train yourself where the reticular activating system focuses on, like, hey, this is how I best performed here. This is how I best showed up here. And like, hey, there was a hard moment. Yes, like there was a trial, a hardship, but you focused your brain to focus on what can I learn from this? You know, like what was the good in that horrific situation? And that's something you can train. And I went through a little time where I had like some subtle depression, and I was looking up
Mm-hmm.
every way that I could really build true joy and happiness and peace,
Mm-hmm.
and all the natural ways of going about that. And the number one thing that every psychology blog that I was reading and learning about is like start with gratitude. Write down what you're grateful for, and then like move your body. If you want to change your psychology, you need to change your physiology and get
Mm-hmm.
moving. But I'm curious, for you, what did that training look like from going from I analyze everything to like, hey, these things that I'm learning on how to focus and grow and improve my perspective on things, I guess. Like, what did that training look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because a lot of people think you're going to add.
Yeah.
It's actually the opposite.
Hmm.
You subtract.
Cool.
Because your mind can only really focus on two or three things like really intently, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I would write down whatever skill or cue it is, and within that there's so many different skills and cues to perform sacking the quarterback, right? There's so many different things, but if you break it down, every little piece down to 2 or 3 words per cue, right? Where if I had to break it down right now, it's weight on hands, eye on ball, and they're all 2 or 3 words, right?
Hmm.
um you know get off, explode upfield, right? Violent hands, toe at quarterback, ball out. Like, and then, that's just an example. But if I'm taking like one or two of those statements or lines and I'm putting them into this day of practice, like that's how you get, 1% better each day is you're
Hmm.
focusing on 2 or 3 things, being so exact, and you're just repping it.
Hmm.
And so what's cool is then you go when you're done. And the thing about football is pretty unique because it's one of the only sports where you really watch all the film because they're set plays. basketball's, I mean, they do have sets, but it's not like football where 11 guys all got to be doing their job and doing this thing. And so you watch more film than any other sport. And so when you watch the film afterwards, when you're taking notes, it's so important that you find all the good things that you do. And so that's important in any process of performance is, the post review to see, okay, this is what I do great. But not, some people when they go and review what they've done, it's just, man, this is what I've not done very well, and this is what I suck at, and this is that, and they add those things up. Going back to it, then you're training your mind to see that, and so it's really important to have more, more good things when
Yeah.
you're done.
Well, I think that's so applicable and like even outside of football. My first thing that my mind went to when you're talking about that is like growing up when I'm taking the sacrament. My first thought is like, okay, let's review the week of like where I screwed up. Like, how can I be better? And it was kind of like a negative experience taking the sacrament for a while, and then
Mm-hmm.
I kind of started thinking like, hey, you know, with Jesus, where would he be proud of me this week? Like
Mm-hmm.
where did I show up as a Christ-like human?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the sacrament became a lot more sacred and special to me. It was,
Mm-hmm.
of course, like you always need to be progressing, but again, it's like focal points, and that gave me more energy to show up more Christ-like as often as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like that correlation that it's, you can always focus on what to improve. And I think there's a time and a place for that always too. Um, and it's just really important to also see the value add that you're bringing to the world and where you're pushing and showcasing that and sharing that with other people. How they show up is so powerful.
Yeah, so true,
Yeah.
so true.
Um, going to you're growing, you're you took college football by storm, where you had the trajectory of going to play in the NFL. Take me from what that kind of looked like to the day of the draft.
Yeah, no, it was uh, like, my experience was just like most athletes. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and you just have to keep going. From being benched that sophomore year to going and being drafted. It was unique. I feel like uh, I I really learned how to hone in on that, bring that level of focus and attention to detail that when you get to the pro level, everyone has it. Like,
Mm.
talk about focus. Everyone is so focused, and everyone uh and everyone's big, everyone's fast, but what separates is the implementation of those you know those mental skills that you learn. I mean, sports is it's so much more mental than physical. The physical stuff's the easy part. It's the mental stuff that slows people down, and sometimes it slows them down without even knowing it. And so, handling adversity, right? For me in college, going back there, you know, I had some unique experiences just because my junior year, I had a bad high ankle sprain. I moved positions, and I was out for 3 games. Came back, played the rest of the year with this high ankle sprain, and then that summer, I got I remember it was no, I think it was that summer. I had a procedure done on my shoulder, and then I came back, and then that senior year, like, you get one, and I had a decent junior year, right? But my senior year, it was just the best year of football, in my life, because not only was the performance there, but the level of focus and the things, and this is the thing, like, everyone says, oh yeah, if you want to have a different outcome, you need to do things differently. It's like, yeah, that's true, but the key word is do, and most people don't do things differently.
Mm.
It's the hardest thing. So what did I do differently? I said, okay, I just want to show up and take advantage of the principle of priming. So, okay, how can I do that? We had early morning workouts and they would start at 6, right? Like you'd be in the locker room, dressed, everything on, ready to go. Well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be there at 5 o'clock. Sometimes I gotta wake up at 4:30, right? And when I wake up, I'm gonna shower right when I wake up, just to like really wake me up. And then I'm gonna show up at the facility and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get in the hot tub and get warmed up. And then I'm gonna stretch and do some activation. And then when they come in there at 6 a.m., I'm really primed, right? So it's stuff like that that you start to get these little gains, because when you show up like that, you already feel like you've won the day. It's not even 6 a.m. yet. And everyone else is coming in kind of dragging
Groggy a
in
little bit.
5:57, throwing their stuff on, rushing. It's like, who's gonna have the better workout, right? And it's such a competitive thing. But you learn to really focus on yourself, because I knew that if my best version of me can play in the NFL, right? I didn't have to compare myself with someone else, or, you know, and you get measured all the time in sports, right? But that's the coolest thing, is when you're able to just focus on those little cues and these little principles and do things that build your faith in yourself and self-belief. It's easier to show up every day if you do that. Not everyone is willing to take the time to do that.
Yeah. No, that when you started talking about that, it sounded like Kobe a little, getting in like the extra work prior than everyone else. It's super cool.
Yeah, it's true. It works.
In your college, you had a couple injuries. Take me to like some of your hardest moments you experienced there, where you're, you know, just like during that time, what was breaking you, or what was one of the lower moments you experienced?
I think what's interesting is probably like the lowest moment up to that point was my senior year in high school, when I tore my ACL in the second game. And this was unique because, I had football stuff. I was supposed to go play in the Under Armour All-American game. And, I was supposed to go be on the basketball and, have this incredible basketball year, and all gone. And so that was really tough for me at that time, just because, I remember sitting in the back of the van after getting my MRI down at BYU, and my dad came out for meetings, and I'm sitting there in the very back with my leg out, and my mom and dad are sitting there, and they're, my dad's like, "What happened? What'd they say?" And he was like, "Oh, torn ACL, out for the year." And it wasn't just a year. This is what people sometimes don't realize with my story, is it was 3 years, because I went on a church mission right after. So I didn't play in a sport event for 3 years. And then I came home 6 days before fall camp and joined the BYU football team. And then let's see, that was in July. And then 5 months later, or 4.5 months later, joined the basketball team. And I didn't play in a basketball game really for 4 years. So this is what's crazy about it. Like,
Wow.
So it was that was low, right? That was a really low part. I was definitely depressed, definitely sad. The hardest thing about being an athlete when you get hurt is you get separated from the team. The team goes on. I'm by myself at rehab at the hospital, riding this bike by myself every day, and you get lonely. You can get lonely quick, right? And so, for me, what helped me during that time is, I decided I have a lot of time, I have a lot of energy still. Like, I better place it somewhere else, right? And so, because I knew that, for this time and season, the goals shifted. So it was sports. But I was good. I signed. I was gonna come back and play at BYU. It was good. But you know what? Over the next, let's see, how long was that? About 7 months prior to my mission, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna focus on being ready to go and serve and be a missionary and disciple of Christ. So what does that look like? Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go out with the missionaries on the weekends, right? I'm gonna fill my time
Mm.
with opportunities to serve, and uh, I'm gonna also spend more time with my family. In high school, a lot of times kids don't want to be with their families, right?
Yeah.
And they just want to be with their friends. But for me, as soon as I got hurt, I had that kind of foresight of, I have 7 months and then I'm gonna be gone for 2 years. I was like, I'm not gonna see my family, and. So I spent more time at home with my parents, with my siblings, right? And I'm the oldest boy. I was gonna be the first one to go on a mission. And so
Where'd you go?
I served in Auckland, New Zealand.
There you go.
Yeah, it was
That's so
awesome.
sweet.
Oh yeah, it was so good. So anyways, that's where, when people go through adversity, and one thing to really look at is, you have to still set yourself to a goal. A lot of times people don't, and then they just squander, and it's easy. It's even easier to squander during that time because you just went through something tough, and there's a lot of emotion, and so being able to say, "Oh, I'm doing this now,"
Mm.
and recommit yourself to something, it changes the way you show up, because as an athlete, you're so used to doing that. It's easy to it's easy to get lost there. So for me, I chose to do on the take that focus towards faith, and that opportunity. But even going through college, right? I still had injuries. My senior year, I tore my meniscus in like the second game, and they told me I had to get surgery and be out for 3 weeks. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not getting surgery. I'm just gonna play with it. And so, learning to play through pain, right, and to handle that and find ways to still play at a high level, is a lesson you learn in the NFL as well, more deeply, because that is a difference. That's a big difference. A major difference between college and NFL is NFL guys play hurt. College guys they'll like sit out, but NFL, if you sit out, you're gonna lose your job,
Dang.
or lose an opportunity, or so you really, you know, you will do whatever you can to play, right? And so that senior, then I went that senior, had a great senior year, and I ended up getting drafted to the Baltimore Ravens. And I was at home at my house, and that was a really cool experience, right?
Yeah,
Changed it.
talk me through that. I feel like people don't get to hear that firsthand from a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Well, you've spent like 12 weeks, 14 weeks, after the bowl game. You sign with an agent. Well, now they're signed earlier, right? But you then immediately, like, you take like a couple weeks off, and then you start training for the combine or for All-American game, right? So I went to the Senior Bowl, and so that was in Mobile, Alabama. Then I came back, kept training. Then I went to the combine, and that's so intense, right?
Yeah.
It's about 3 or 4 days, and then you come back, and then you go to pro day at your school with when all the scouts are there, and then from there you go to, and then you're just waiting for the draft. And so if you're not going to be a first round pick, if you're a first round pick, they have you go to New York or wherever the draft is, right? I think this year was in Pittsburgh. But then after that first round, the next day, it's the second and third round. And so that's kind of where I knew I was going to be slotted to go. And so I was just watching just like everyone else. This is what's crazy. Like, you could be doing anything, like some guys don't even watch it and they just get a call. And, for me, I didn't want anyone there. I didn't throw a party or anything. I just kept it quiet, and just my mom and dad, my wife, my siblings there. And then I literally get the call. They say, hey, we're going to draft you with our next pick. Hang up the phone, and then 3 picks later, they pick me.
Bro.
So, and then it's actually pretty cool.
What's going through your mind
Oh,
when you get that phone call, when it rings? Like,
honestly, like, for me, I was just, you're super grateful. I mean, at least I was just like, wow, this is cool. Like, you watch shows where they talk about this, and now you're experiencing it, and you're like, wow, this is awesome. Your family's there, and you're like, oh, I can't believe this is it. This is like a dream come true. Like it really is a special moment, right? And then, the next day it's like time to go to work, and they fly you out, you do some interviews or something, then you go back home, and they fly you back out for rookie mini camp, and then you start going right away. And so, for me, you come on this really big high, right? This is where sports is so interesting, because you're on this big high, and then you go to the camp, and now you're grinding, right? For me, I got hurt during that camp, rookie mini camp. Yeah, blew out my back. I was out. Didn't do anything during that time period during the spring. Come back for the fall, start doing pretty good, and then a guy lands on my leg, dislocated ankle, spiral fractured leg, and they tell me I'm done playing.
My gosh.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is crazy, right? Like, but for me, going back to it, like my parents were really good at making sure that our identities weren't tied to football, right? Which is kind of unique in this day and age, but
very unique, I believe.
Yeah, they made it really clear that it's just what we do. It's not who we are. So what did they do to help us remember that? We always worked and had a job in high school. So I was a bagger at Days Market at the grocery store.
Let's go.
And a checker. And we cut down trees, did lawns, did flower beds, like we always worked outside. So like, yeah, we play a game on Friday. The next day, I'm working for like 7 hours at the grocery store. And it's like, no matter how big the game was that I had, it didn't matter, right? It's like, hey, you're going to go to work, and you're going to learn how to talk to people, and you're going to learn how to serve people and learn these lessons, right? And also it's like, hey, you want to have your own money to go do stuff, you're going to have to earn it, because I'm not paying for school dances. I'm not doing all this stuff. And so, for me, that was a super valuable lesson, is just the value of earning it, and reaping what you sow. But that's the thing, going back to it, on the NFL side, when I got hurt, I knew I'm so much bigger than football. Yeah. And so it allowed me to, bounce back in a better way, and just be able to navigate it better than most, I think. Because I still kept playing, and even though I was a little different, but I was like, I'm gonna make the most of it. It's such a unique time. I knew how short of a window sports is going into it.
Professionally, isn't it like on average around 3 years?
Yeah, 2.6.
2.6.
Because at 3 years they cut everyone, because that's when you get your pension. So yeah, so it's a short time. So I just was grateful that they let me continue to play on and earn some type of role.
Yeah.
But after that, it was, the rule in the NFL is, rookies don't get hurt. Why? Because when you get hurt as a rookie, you're behind everyone, and they're already filling your role for next year with other guys in the draft. And then, you have to, and then it's a battle. It's hard to earn, because now you're at the same level, even though you've been there for a year, and now people are questioning, can you do it? And so you have to, so it's tough, right? It really is a tough thing. And it's the most competitive environment in the world. That's what people don't realize, is it's more competitive than anything, because there's 100 guys ready to take your job. They're always trying to get you for cheaper, because you're older, you're hurt, you can't do it anymore. So every day you're proving to yourself and to them why you belong. So it's very different.
Yeah, that's high intensity.
Oh yeah, it is. And I watched it chew people up and spit them out quick, right? And not every player loves football too. Like for me, I loved it. Like I really did. I loved, and it wasn't like, the games are fun, but I feel like when it comes to high performance and being great at anything, you have to love that process, like the grind, waking up after a game and you're beat and you don't feel like walking. It's hard to get out of bed, but you still show up at the facility at the same time, because you're going to get it done no matter what. It's like, that's the stuff for me I love. And so even post playing, I mean, I still operate like that, just because I'm so used to it. And I feel like I'm at my best when I have a process that I'm following that rain or shine, it's going to get done, and I'm going to find what that does for me mentally, and everything else. It just keeps me steady because I have full control over that.
Yeah. Uh, I it just sounds like level of commitment is like a huge piece of your story, because you have so many obstacles and so many injuries that a lot of people in those circumstances just don't ever return. But your power of getting hit down and then finding a new goal that's like pushing you forward, I feel like is really impressive. It's so cool,
Thanks.
man. And then also the identity piece around um, not just being a football player that was kind of taught to you is so powerful. Last question on the NFL. What do you feel like was the greatest moment that you had in the NFL? Like your favorite piece, or like if you go back to a certain moment in your head, what would that be?
So after that injury, I had the opportunity to start my first game. And I remember them calling my name out of the tunnel and running on the fires everywhere and all this stuff. Everything's crazy. Like, that's something you dream about doing, right? And it was cool. My sister was there, and she's there with my wife. She's bawling her eyes out, right? Like, it's always a family that gets like, it's very emotional for family members because they know your grind more than anybody else,
Yeah.
and especially your siblings.
I've
Like,
seen it for 10,
yeah,
10 plus years.
it's your parents and your siblings that have watched you since you were little.
Yeah.
Like, since you were born, like that was what, 24 years old when I played in that first game. Like, no, I was older. I was 25. So my sister was there watching, and there's a video of her just bawling her eyes out. But there's multiple videos when you watch the draft. Look around the room and look for you can tell who the siblings are because they're the ones that are like crying, or it's such a special moment. And that was a really cool experience. And I think, outside of that, it's in the quiet moments where the greatest moments are in the NFL. And what I mean by that is that was a really loud moment, and it was amazing. But my favorite moments were when you're sitting there in the sauna with your teammates just talking, or in the locker room talking, or in the weight room just talking with each other, or at one of the players' houses having a barbecue, just hanging out, or sitting around the fire with your teammates. Like, that stuff is the stuff you miss the most. Like, like, that's the stuff, going back to what we originally, like, when we first started talking about the relationship side. Yeah, the relationship side. That's what you miss the most, because that's why football is so interesting, because those relationships are built, and it's the only place in the world that they're built that way. Like, nowhere else do you go, I mean, other than the military, right? Like, but you're so close with your team. You literally see them every day. You talk every day. You're with them for hours. You see them more than you see your family. And every day you're sacrificing for each other. And you're holding each other to this standard. And that's why football is such a fraternity, such a unique group. There's such a strong bond there, because you build a relationship. It's so unique. And people come from different backgrounds, different faiths, different countries, and you drop your egos at the door, and you get to know each other. Like, championship culture is one of the hardest things to build. And not even every football team has championship culture, right? It's, really only a handful of them in the NFL have championship culture at the end of the day. Like, for being
break
honest.
down what championship culture looks like.
Yeah. I mean, so first, championship culture is built off of love. So love between players. And I'm going to talk about it from a sports side. Love between players, coaches, where that person right over there has your back no matter what. Off the field, on the field. And not only do you know it, it's shown every day. And it's also shown outside of the field in a practice. You really feel like your leaders love you, care for you, see you more than football or more than whatever's going on. See you more than a business. See you more than, and that's hard to do. And it's hard to get leaders to do that. And because there's a lot of little actions going back to showing up, these leaders have to show up, and coaches don't have control over that. Like, these leaders on the team have control over it. And so championship culture is when that piece is owned by the leaders.
Mm.
And not every team has that. And it's unique. It's very unique. So that first piece, you have to have that ingredient of, leading with love and making sure everyone feels that in order to be great and have championship culture. That's the biggest thing, I think. Like, if you had to put it all into a pot, that's the biggest thing I'm throwing in there first.
Love that. Yeah, it's starting with love and relationships and like the real depth of caring for one another.
Yeah.
It's powerful. Let's see. I just lost my question.
Oh, you're good.
But with everything, like how has God played a role in your world?
For me, I think my world is God's world. Like, I think about that because being willing to being willing to submit your will. It's the hardest thing to do and the happiest thing you can do. It's really interesting. Like, I think it's one of the hardest things to do in this world is to do that. And people have a hard time. But when they do it, they experience more joy, more happiness, more peace in their life. And so for me, at the end of the day, I know that nothing's mine anyways, right? And so if I can just help people get closer to God and help them build the foundation in Him, then they can experience more joy. Like, that's truly where I build from. More so than anything else is knowing that my identity is, no, I am a child of God, right? Like, I know that I can pray to Him and talk to Him. I know that um, that I know that He wants me to be successful. And when I'm successful, I'm going to give the light to Him, right? And I'm going to go bless people's lives. I'm going to be a blessing. Like, that's for me, I think, why I show up the way I show up, because I carry His light and share that with others. Yeah.
Like, going back to the start, it's like, dude, you shine. And I've seen you in a couple different, moments where you just show up with light, and it's powerful. And it's like, what does he have? He's, like, I know, I imagine people have asked you, like, how are you this happy? How, and I could tell when I asked that question that, like, that was like the center of your soul right there. And it's amazing. How do you feel like you've gotten that depth of a relationship with God?
Oh,
And
man.
like,
That's a good question.
let's talk to someone that, would love to have that. And they're like, I just don't know how to get to that.
Oh,
What would you say to them?
going back to it, I think about, how do you build a relationship with someone? it's time showing up. Okay, how do I show up for God? I think being able to use that principle that we talked about, seeing God in my life in every area,
Yeah.
you just attract him. And so what happens is you see tender mercies, you see his love, you start to see that God's entrusted you to be an influence to change one of his other children's life, and you recognize that, like, and then all of a sudden you go from, hey, how's it going type of relationship to arms around each other. What are we doing today? It's a different relationship.
Mm.
And so for me, when I think about if if I'm trying to build that relationship with God, um, I'm going to talk to him, right? Through prayer. I'm going to seek answers from him through scriptures and, reading those things and watching those things that uplift and edify, right? And then I'm going to serve because that's what he would be doing if he was here. And then I'm going to be around people. I'm going to be around sources of light. Like, because I have direct control over where I place my body on this earth, my mind, my spirit. I want my proximity, going back to it, I need my proximity to light, to his light, and other people. I'm not the only one that carries light. We all do. And so being around people that are serving, you know, seeking him through prayer, all those things. And that's why church is so powerful, because you get to be in a room with people that are all trying to become more like him and serve and build. And another thing I would do, though, if I was talking to someone like that, is I would challenge them to do that. Like, get down on your knees, say a prayer, and ask if God knows you. Crack open some scriptures, start reading, see what thoughts come to your mind. You might not get an answer right away. Keep praying, keep taking action, keep showing your faith. And that's the thing, is we're all his children, and he wants you to do that. So put it to the test, and you'll know, oh, God knows me. And it does change everything. Change how you show up for football, business, every relationship, going back, like, it all goes back to him.
The foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a moment in your life where you were like, I know God played a really important piece in what is happening right now?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. Uh, honestly, I feel that a lot. Just because you think about how many decisions you make in a day, where it's like, I go this way or this way, constantly, all the time, right? In a week, in a month, and it's so easy to look back and see that, and all of those decisions. What's interesting is God is actually waiting and watching you make these decisions, and he just wants to be included.
Yeah.
And so when you include God in those decisions, and God, including God, might be, hey, on this decision, you need to talk to your wife about that. Okay. Like, hey, on this decision, think about how you can help more people.
Yeah.
Like, little thoughts like that, and are ways that he's included in that decision making. Hey, let's come back to what I need you to become to help other people.
Yeah.
That decision really isn't going to help you do that. It's like, hey, look over here. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, yeah, he's there in all decisions. But I especially, when I was done playing and I'm trying to figure out what to do, I think, that's a really important decision. And
Yeah.
some decisions feel heavier than others, right? Um, but I went to my wife and asked her, "Hey, like, what should I do? I have all these options." I think I had like 11 options. She's like, "Go list all the people next to him." I said,
Mm.
"Okay." Listed the people next to him, and she knew that I was going to choose the person who had championship culture. Well, what does that really mean? People who I could go be around, that I could be my true self and go and be able to share that light with in a big way. She knew that. And so that's like what happened. So I for me, I feel like, you know, he God isn't always gonna come and give you the direct answer,
Yeah.
but he provides the people around you for you to go talk to and ask for advice from. And it's so important to do that. So I think sometimes people get away from that or shy away from that. And it's like, no, you have people in your life because God needs them in your life. So when you have decisions, you can go and ask them for help.
It's orchestrated.
Yeah, your parents, siblings, family, coaches, mentors. There's just no accidents, right? It's
Yeah.
like, no, everything is meant to be. Those relationships in your life, they're meant to be there.
Yeah. I think the deeper I go into the understanding of life and just my own
Mhm.
journey, is you learn how perfect his plan is for you. And it's like a level of beauty of, like, why does someone care about me this much?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
Um it's just so special. And
yeah,
I think a lot of God's miracles is worked through his people that he's already orchestrated to be in your life.
yeah.
I'm curious if you have any specific spiritual experiences that's meant the world to you.
Oh man, so many. Honestly, I feel like I uh I have so many. Most of my spiritual experiences come when I'm serving others,
Yeah.
and it's taking action.
Mm.
Right, I have to be doing something, doing good, sharing light. And I think probably like one of the most interesting spiritual experiences that I've had was one of the most smallest things ever, probably, where um, literally I'm in the NFL and I'm one of the guys in the locker room. Hey, why are you older than everyone else? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, you've been in the NFL for 6 years and you should be in the NFL for 8 years. And I was like, oh, well, I went on church mission for 2 years. And they're like, wait, what's that? Right? And I started telling them about my mission. Well, fast forward, my teammate, we were out fishing, and then uh, literally we went, then you had lunch, and then this one teammate was like, hey, I want to go fishing again. Let's go fishing again. I'm okay. Well, I wasn't supposed to be there in the first place because I was supposed to be home, or no, my wife and kids were supposed to be in Green Bay, and we are supposed to be hanging out that weekend, but something happened where they couldn't come. So now I had all this time.
Mm.
We go fishing again, and then he starts asking me about God and Jesus Christ and how do I get closer to him? And, you know, and we're sitting there fishing in Green Bay, Wisconsin, two NFL guys, having this really spiritual conversation. And, and then from there, hey, can we read the scriptures together? Yeah, sure. Start reading scriptures together. And it was awesome because he wanted to learn more about going to church and following God, and it was cool because we then went and went back. We went back home after that. He started meeting with some missionaries, and then the last day of training camp, he ended up choosing to follow Christ, and he got baptized, and um, that was such a cool experience. But the coolest experiences, like some of the most spiritual experiences, were when it was just me and him reading scripture, and he's asking me, uh, "What does this mean?" or "How does this work?" or it's And just last night, I got crazy. I was on a call. It was a FaceTime with a guy who just wanted to read scriptures, and he was reading scriptures with his friends. And that was such a spiritual experience for me because it made me think. It brought me back to, you think about like a little plant, like a little brand new plant, like in a garden, and it's just brand new. And just when you're looking at that, it's like how pure that is, you know?
Yeah.
The questions, reading. And I look at that plant and I think about how so many people are that plant in their relationship with Christ,
Mm.
and how that plant needs to be taken care of. And there's people in our lives that Christ puts into our lives where he puts us next to the plant and he wants us to help because he's not here. And those experiences, when someone says their first prayer, reads scriptures, that's some of the most spiritual experiences. And you see it in your own family with your kids.
Mm.
That experience, I think, is one of the experiences that we have to have in this life, because God, going through that is a godly experience. But then when you're the person that's helping taking care of this plant, it's a godly experience,
Yeah, you're
and
the
it's deep.
gardener.
You're the gardener. And when you read about that in the scriptures, being a gardener, it's like, oh, you don't really think like, no, it's like the greatest calling to be that gardener, to take care of that little plant, right? But then it's also a great experience to take care of that big tree that is on its way out, and that full life cycle of all the good that that tree did. And think about our older folks, and you think about them and their legacies and the things that they're sharing, and helping them feel loved and seen. The experiences that older tree had when they were little are now coming back. The gardener is still there taking care of this older tree the same way that they took care of this little sprout right here, caring, watching, making sure you're okay. It's such a cool experience.
Yeah, man. Thank you for being open and sharing about that stuff. I think
Yeah.
there's so much power to um, the foundation of God, and I think like we're both still young. Like we have a ton of life to go live, and sometimes you're the gardener, and sometimes like you
Yeah.
think you're the big tree, but you're still that little plant,
The little guy just trying to get those roots down. Come on.
um, talking on legacy. This is the Life Legacy podcast.
Yeah.
Say it's your last day, and you have every loved one in a room, and it's your last time you'll ever talk with them.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
That's really good. It's interesting because I would probably just say 2 words, and it would be follow God. Just because I know if they're following him, that they're going to be taken care of no matter what. Because in my life, that's what's helped me through any storm. And you read about it in scripture, different people sharing that message, but it's like, why is that pattern a pattern? It's because it's true. Like, it really is true. When you're able to follow God, you are. I think about my own dad, and if that was me standing in the room, I know that's what he would say. Like, because his dad said that. And I think that's important because, um, going back to standing on giants, yeah, their size is good, but their spiritual size, it's bigger.
Goliath.
It's Goliath, yeah. And like, that's why, I mean, yeah, I know my dad would say that, and I know his dad said that. And that message is, I mean, we read it all the way back. You read all the way back to Adam, right? Like it's that those two words. Yeah. Follow God, follow him. Um it's that's the message I would share, just because that's where I have chosen to place my trust,
Yeah.
and that's where I build from. And so I know that they will be okay if they can do that.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to agree with you on that.
Hmm.
It's true. Every aspect of my life, the closer I've been with God, the more peace and joy in whatever the circumstance was I've felt. And it's interesting because I think you see God so much during those storms if you're looking, and it goes back to
True.
focus again. But I follow God is like some of the greatest words that I feel like you could share to those people.
Yeah.
And but you're you're an amazing, well-rounded leader, with so much energy and so much light, and everything that you're doing right now is really special.
We're
Um,
out there. We're out there.
yeah, yeah. Let's shout out some of the things you're working on, and then where
Yeah.
people can find you.
Yeah. I mean, upcoming right now is Utah's premier NFL charity event where people will get to, people sponsor teams, and then those, they get to bring their friends, kids, employees, whoever, partners, and then they get to play flag football with NFL guys. So we throw NFL guys on the team, and you play. It's a 35-yard by 20-yard field, and it's just so fun. And you get to make, as an NFL player and really any athlete, the best part about being an athlete is using your platform for good. This platform that's just given to you. And so it's really cool to see little kids out there running around and seeing players and signing autographs, and that's so awesome. So that's coming up. That's on June 27th here in Utah, and yeah, Charity of Champions. Super excited about that. Yeah, it's such we don't have an NFL team here in Utah, so to be able to have over 40 NFL players out there, and you get to hang out with them and talk with them. It's such a unique
Yeah,
experience.
that's an experience.
Yeah,
Mm.
super unique.
And then where can people find you?
All right, so I'm on Instagram. Kaufusi90 is my tag, and then I'm on LinkedIn too, Bronson Kaufusi. But yeah, other than that, you'll find me on the Provo River, or fishing, or up on the mountainside, somewhere doing something fun outside. Yeah.
Well, it's been an honor to have you on the show.
Yeah.
I know people had some amazing takeaways, and I think at least for me, the message of this was, like focus and continue to grow your gifts and talents, and really the foundation of whatever you're going through, if it's God, you can have like an authentic smile on your face, and he'll show up in the good and the bad moments.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And this has been the podcast with Bronson Kaufusi.